Welcome to episode 32 of the Hell Married podcast. I'm the Toves, and I'm joined by my wife, AToves. And we're going to start off this year's podcast by highlighting the UTSA soccer team. We've discussed adding other sports to our podcast episodes, so hopefully you guys enjoy a little bit of us talking football before we talk football and highlight some of UTSA's other great athletes.
So this past weekend, we were able to go and see the UTSA women's soccer team play an exhibition game against Baylor. Unfortunately, they lost the game 2-1, but overall, it was a great showing for UTSA's women's soccer team, and I think it shows that we have a great season ahead of us. Before we get into the game and the highlights, I was very impressed by the amount of people that were out supporting UTSA. There was a really great crowd for the Roadrunners. There were also a lot of people there to see Baylor, but just looking around at the crowd for UTSA, there was a great mix of students, student athletes, coaches from other teams, as well as just fans there to support the women. On the coaching side, we got to see the new volleyball coach. Coach Henson was there. For basketball, we saw Jacob Germany. Frank Harris was there. There were actually a bunch of football players. So it was really great to see these student athletes come out to support the women. And, I think it just shows, in addition to this program, how much, UTSA is kind of coming out to support other teams, other athletes. And really, that's not something that we would have seen 5-6 years ago.
And that's what I was going to ask you is this really what we've seen over the last few years? I know the COVID was going on, but still, outside of the COVID years, would we have actually seen that?
I don't remember, before the COVID years, really seeing anybody from football at the basketball games or, hearing about, I'm sure there were probably some coaches that went to see football or to see some of the other sports, but really seeing them, come out frequently to support one another, I think it just shows the growth of the athletics program.
And like you said, it's terrific because you have essentially athletes supporting athletes, and that's big as they kind of all come together. And they're really all coming together because of the race facilities here, right? Like they're probably all working out around the same time, and
getting to know each other,
yeah,
in a way that they wouldn't have before.
Yeah. So let's get into the game. I'm going to talk a little bit about my thoughts on the Baylor game. I'm sure AToves will probably come in and throw in a shot or two and see where we go from here. But overall, I thought UTSA looked better than Baylor. I know that it was an exhibition game, but they seemed to control the game throughout. They came out pressing Baylor. They really were just trying to make it uncomfortable for Baylor to essentially work their way down the field. And when I talk about pressing, essentially what they did was they came out. And if you think about it in terms of basketball terms, it was like a full court press, but it was more of a zone press. They were trying to force essentially Baylor's passing to go into certain directions. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was kind of interesting because Baylor is supposed to be transitioning to more of a possession team where, they would probably welcome more of this pressure and be able to pass around, UTSA, but that's not what happened. They kind of went back to what they've been doing over the last few years, and that's just blasting the ball down the field and try to out-athlete UTSA. And it really didn't work. There were a couple times it did, but I would say, if you're in football and if you're really going to try to throw the ball 40 or 50 yards down the field like every other throw, you can have a low completion percentage. That's just the way it is. And that's what happened here is where our defenders were doing a really good job of not getting knocked off the ball. They did a great job of defending Baylor player as opposed to getting beat to the ball or getting knocked off the ball. It was just a little bizarre to me. But again, it's exhibition, so maybe Baylor was just trying to do a few things that they don't normally do, and it was trying to loft the ball over the press. I remember watching something similar to this that happened, which was between the U.S. women's national team and Sweden at the first game of the Olympics last year. U.S. women's national team had no more answers, so they just started trying to just blast the ball over Sweden's heads, and it just didn't work out. And for Baylor, it really wasn't working out. They, essentially had to resort to getting a couple of calls here or there, and that helped them as they kind of went to the last third of the field. And that's where they kind of looked a little bit better, where they kind of moved the ball around a little more. But certainly, I think if you watch the game, and I try to kind of push myself away from being a UTSA fan, certainly, UTSA looked better just coming out from this game. And to me, it's interesting that it's a Conference USA team, really seeming to really hang with the Big 12 team.
Yeah, I mean, if you just looked at the team itself, generally when you see, us, whether it's soccer or any other sport, playing against a Big 12 school, you expect to see just a difference in terms of how their athletes look. And the girls on the Baylor team did not look taller, stronger, faster than our girls. I mean, they looked very closely matched in terms of the competitiveness.
And I love the way you say that, because I think that's an excellent way to at least give everybody a vision of what was going on the field. Again, to me, UTSA looked strong. We made this, they weren't getting knocked off the ball, and we kept making little comments over and over to each other saying, built by race. Certainly, I think the race facility, obviously was going to benefit the football team, but it's going to benefit all of our other athletics teams. And it's clear when you see the soccer team, they got to probably spend some more time, in the weight room. And because of it, you can see the difference that it made. Certainly, to your point, looked stronger, looked just as strong as Baylor, looked just as fast. They weren't getting, really, I would say, outpaced to the ball. So a lot of great things to see there. A lot of their build-ups, a lot of their passes, a lot of great connections. Again, because they have so many returning players, that could be the reason why they looked good early on. But regardless, you would have imagined there would have been at least some more rust, and there wasn't. They were able to make those passes, make some clean looks, and make some nice turns at times. And again, pretty good work from UTSA. They looked dangerous off the set pieces for the second game in a row. Within the first 3 minutes, we score. Kendall Cloza scored against Texas State in the first exhibition. She scores in the first 2 minutes here, or 3 minutes, against Baylor. So, again, I don't know what Baylor, whether they game planned or did anything to that point, but they certainly didn't keep an eye on Kendall Cloza on that first corner kick, and it showed. If you see the replay, it kind of goes unmarked, and that's a big no-no in corner kicks. And Kieran Singh was a heck of a corner kick on there. So, yeah, they looked dangerous off those set pieces. They looked great there. And again, that disciplined press that they had, they kept maneuvering and forcing Baylor to go wherever they wanted them to go. There was no reckless challenges. They could have been much more reckless. They weren't. They were disciplined in how they were making sure that they stayed between the Baylor players and kind of cut off passing lanes. Now, if I'm going to pick some nits, UTSA still looks like they're getting their legs under them. Coach Pittman said that against Texas State, that they're kind of still playing into their fitness. You could tell. And you could tell both teams were kind of suffering from that. Like, near the end of the game, they were trying to get some fresh bodies out there, but you could tell, like, both teams were kind of, starting to slog through. And, things started getting a little messy, especially for UTSA. Their ball control started lacking at that time as they started kind of getting tired. They started getting a little more reckless on their challenges. They started, again, the passing was just, there was a lot of just kicking of the ball and not really of just kind of good passes like they were doing before, earlier in the game when I think they were much fresher. The only other thing I'd say is the midfield kind of disappeared at times. Maybe that's more because of Baylor, but there really wasn't that as great of a bridge, I think, between the defense and the offense. And I think more of the forwards were the ones that were causing the havoc, and they're the ones that were able to really kind of generate some more offense. And I think the midfield can do a little bit better work there. But again, exhibition. So I think overall, again, stronger, but they were also the smarter team. And I think that it bodes well, and I think should really kind of raise some general excitement over this team that can make some noise in Conference USA. Now that we've kind of talked about the exhibition match, there was one fun story that you took away from there, and I really wanted to kind of highlight it for our listeners because I think it speaks to UTSA athletics. So I will let you go ahead and say it. Yeah.
So we were over by the concession area during halftime, and there was a mom and her daughter, probably about, I'd say, 8 or 9 years old. And one of the UTSA players had run to use the bathroom and was getting ready to head back to the field before the second half got started. And the little girl saw the UTSA player, and she was just absolutely in awe of the player. She was, big eyes, just mouth wide open, staring at the girl. And so at first the UTSA player didn't really notice. She was, again, trying to get back to the field, and the mom said to her, my daughter is just in awe of you. She's so excited to get to see you. And so, the girl took a couple minutes to say hi. And the little girl she just couldn't say anything. She was just so in awe of the player that she just kind of looked at her and said thank you. And so as the player ran off, the mom had said to the little girl, well, you can tell your sister when we get back to the stands that you got to see one of the players and you got to talk to her. And she was just so cute. She said, holy chalupa, I saw a player. I'm not really sure what holy chalupa means, but hey.
It's San Antonio.
Yeah. An 8-year-old speak, it means something. She was just so excited to get to see this girl up close and personal, and so I'm sure so excited that the UTSA player, again, took a couple minutes to say hi to her and thank her for coming to the game. And
well, I mean, that's a great story, though, because, we talk about what, football players, the kind of, impact they can make on local recruiting, right? And even the impact they can make on some of the younger kids and younger boys, younger girls in our community. But here's like this UTSA soccer player that is making that same impact. So a fun story there, because honestly, you think of the impact on these little girls would come maybe from Alex Morgan or Lindsey Horan or Rose Lavelle, all international stars for our national team, right? Nope, here's this UTSA soccer player that's having that same impact. And that's huge, because who knows? You said the girl is maybe about like 8 years old, maybe another 10 years. She shows up and she's the one that's wearing a UTSA jersey and potentially having the same impact for another little girl in our community. So
yeah, and meanwhile, she walked right past probably 10 football players standing there talking, and other fans were coming up and, talking to them. And of course, Frank Harris is there, so everybody's kind of coming up and saying hello to him. And she had no idea who they were. She just walked right by him. She was just, again, enamored with the fact that she got to meet soccer players.
What a cool story. All right, let's talk season preview and just highlight some of the players for UTSA. Team was picked 6th in the preseason Conference USA poll. It's the highest preseason pick that they've been at in the last 5 years. However, I still think, from what I've seen, that they can probably finish higher. I've retweeted as much, saying that I think this team's going to make some noise, and I am going to stand on that hill. All right, I will die on it. Some top names to know, and I think these are the top 2 names from the UTSA program: are forward Anna Suter and defender Kendall Kloza. Anna was selected preseason first team all conference, and I expect she's going to be there at the end of the season. Last season, she was second team all conference, and was also on the all freshman team. Just to give you just a little bit of idea of how special Anna is, she took 17 total shots last year. 10 of those were on goal. It's a heck of a percentage to have of your shots that are actually have to be saved by a goalie. And out of those 10 shots on goal, 7 of those went in as goals. So it's a great kind of conversion, and just tells you what kind of player she is. Against Baylor, I didn't really mention her that much, but it seemed like her minutes were being managed, but she got to rip a couple of shots that you could see the special. Mm-hmm. You can see why, many of the coaches have picked her to be on the all conference team. So, again, I think she's going to be huge. And of course, we can't not talk about Kendall Kloza, central defender. She's incredibly stout back there. She is one of the co-captains. She was second team all conference as well last year. And I think coming off those, set pieces and the free, I would say the free kicks, she's going to be, once again, crucial to this team. I think that she can make first team all conference as well. Worst case, return to second team all conference. But I think Kendall's definitely a talented player, as well as Anna Suter. So, if you're looking for some star power, if you're looking to kind of Frank Harris's, the Zachary Franklin type, Rashad Wisdom type players that you see on the football squad, Kendall and Anna are the ones you're going to be looking for on the soccer field. That said, let's go through a couple of the players here on the team. So let's talk goalkeeping. Senior Jill Schneider returns, and she actually put up some great stats that I think that she'll be able to top for her last season. She had 8 shutouts last year and had a 76.5 shot save percentage. I think she improves on that because I think she's going to have an experienced defense in front of her, and I think she's just going to have improved that much. That said, that defense is led, of course, by Kendall Kloza, who we've already talked about. Also have Deja Sandoval, is a senior, redshirt junior Sabrina Hillier, and junior Sasha Dade. I was impressed with Sasha Dade. Since she was closer to us in the first half on the left side, it was kind of interesting watching her and how she handled some of these Baylor forwards. She had I would say she kind of awkwardly had an issue, I think, early on. She seemed to walk it off, really gritty of her to do so. And I thought Baylor was going to take more advantage of the fact that, she was kind of limping around a little bit, trying to get her foot working again, to kind of put it that way. But they didn't. And I think it just speaks to, her being able to not only kind of tough it out to an extent, but also just I think the respect that they got from her, that they just couldn't knock her off the ball or, make any headway that way. So defense certainly looks stout. I think there's also a couple of other players that we can talk about. Alex Granville is another player I think that's going to be huge. She's another defender. There's a lot of defenders on here, and so it was kind of tough at first because there's not really a announcement of the lineup and I really wasn't paying attention at the beginning of the game to who was going to be in the starting lineup. Again, not sure that was going to be the starters for the first game. Could be, but certainly she's certainly another player to watch out for. We'll head to the midfield where senior Serena Russ, I think, is the leader of the midfielders. They kind of play, I think Coach Pittman has sort of a varied look in terms of how he makes his lineup. So it's not necessarily easy to kind of know exactly where some of these players are playing. So, if I stumble here or there and kind of say that they're in the wrong position, that's really why. I'm just trying to figure out where they're actually going to be playing for this season. Forwards, we kind of talked about Anna Suter already. I want to talk about Alyssa Stewart. I thought she played really well against Baylor, especially in the first half. She caused some havoc and got a breakaway chance. It was a shot that she took, and it went straight to the goalkeeper, and it was almost a one-on-one. I think it was one, as soon as I saw it from her face, after she took it, it was one that I think she wishes she had back, because I think she had an opportunity to at least, I think, put us up by one or at least tie it. So I think that, she's going to be a huge part in really filling the gap left by Ellis Patterson, who's one of the greats for UTSA. And so, obviously we need somebody else to kind of come in there and produce. And I think Alyssa is going to step up this year, and I think she's going to have a big year, as well as junior Kieran Singh. I already mentioned her as having the corner kick and having the assist off the corner kick with Kendall Kloza against Baylor. I thought she did well actually receiving the ball and then holding it up and really kind of passing off to some of the midfielders, some of the other forwards. So, I think that she's also going to be a key member of the team that's going to help fill that gap again from the loss of Ellis Patterson. Last but not least, we look at the bench. We're looking at some returning players, and fifth-year senior forward Lexi Bolton, grad student Isa Hernandez, redshirt senior Abby Castle. We also saw a transfer in forward Savannah Powell. I thought she played well. I will note that poor Abby Castle, I felt like she was just getting
she was getting picked on by the coach. Yeah, she was the player that was closest to him, so it was immediate line of sight. And while she was in the game, I think I heard him yell her name out about 45 times. It's Abby, left shoulder, Abby, right shoulder, Abby, Abby, Abby. It's I know who Abby is. I don't know who anybody else is on the field, but I know Abby now.
She played well, though. Granted, I know Coach Pittman was getting on her, but I thought she played well. So I don't think that it was necessarily a too negative a thing. But I think, seeing Lexi Bolton get out there, it looked like she had her leg wrapped, so maybe she's got sort of a knock, and so hopefully she gets kind of healed up before the opener on Thursday night. And I think there's probably going to be some other players that we see come off the bench that are going to probably, again, try to help fill that void from Ellis Patterson, but also help to provide some depth for some of the other players that are going to be out there for the team. So 2 opportunities to see the team play over the next few days. It's going to be Houston Baptist, as I said, Thursday, 7 o'clock, Park West. It's either probably, when we release this episode, it's going to be that night. And then on Sunday, 1 p.m., Texas Southern at Park West.
Yeah, to round out the month, they'll be at Texas A&M Commerce on August 25th, and then back home at Park West on Sunday, August 28th against Kansas State. Another great opportunity to see them against a Big 12 team. Kansas State was picked last, I believe, in the Big 12 rankings. So,
preseason
rankings. Yeah, we saw how they did against Baylor, which was middle of the pack Big 12. So I think that really bodes well for us to, get a victory against Kansas State.
Are you calling upset already?
I am.
Awesome.
Before we go, in case you missed it, back in July, they broke ground on the Park West Fieldhouse. The Fieldhouse is just next to where the soccer stadium is, and will provide locker rooms, team rooms, and training rooms for soccer, track, and field. So just one more of many facilities projects that are underway for UTSA athletics. Again, if you are a Roadrunner Athletic Fund donor, you can donate to these projects through their campaign fundraiser or through just the Roadrunner Athletic Fund. You have until August 31st to get your donations in for this year. Of course, I'm sure the student athletes will appreciate anything that you might be able to give. But it's great to see UTSA investing not only in football, but also in some of our other Olympic sports.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us on the Hail Married podcast. I'm AToves.
And I'm the Toves.
We'll be back soon when we preview the fall season for football.
Birds up.